bit, inshallah. That's what it is. Your beard gets bigger and wider every week, you know. Look like Charlton Heston in the Ten Commandments, you know. At the end, they make Musa get older and older by the minute.
I gained something and I lost something. This is the gain.
And then
X.
we get tajri. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وهي تجري بهم في موج كالجبال ونادى نوح ابنه وكان في معزل يا بني اركب معنا ولا تكن مع الكافرين. My dear respected elders and brothers, if we remember, we were doing the qissa of and the story of Nuh alayhi salam, where through long strenuous years Nuh alayhi salam made effort amongst his people, gave da'wah to them, called them towards the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His efforts brought only a little benefit to his people. A little over 80 people accepted Islam, and the rest of them were challenging Nuh alayhi salam, and even came to the extent, in other surahs we realize, that they started devising some plan against Nuh alayhi salam, in which they wanted to kill him. In another surah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about Nuh alayhi salam that he called to Allah ta'ala, Inni madhlumun fantasir. Oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am being oppressed, meaning they have planned to kill me and I don't deserve this. Fantasir, therefore help me. And last week also, we read a very important ayat to make us understand we're going to read this week, that Nuh alayhi salam was told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself that anyone who has accepted Islam amongst your people, that is finished. Those who have accepted Islam, nobody else from your people will accept Islam after them. Meaning everyone will remain a disbeliever after this. So since this was the case, Nuh alayhi salam started making his preparations and started making dua against his people that if they're not going to be believers, then therefore you might as well destroy them. So from amongst those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told Nuh alayhi salam that they were going to die was that Nuh alayhi salam's ahl, his family will be saved, and a very important statement Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said was illa man qad amana. Let me just try and find it here. Illa man sabaka alayhi al-qawl. I didn't find it here, but that's where the ahl of the believers of Nuh alayhi salam will be saved, the family of Nuh alayhi salam will be saved, and illa man sabaka alayhi al-qawl, except those people who the hukum and the order of Allah Ta'ala of kufr has already passed upon them. And we explained last week, there were two people in Nuh alayhi salam's family, unfortunately, who were disbelievers, and that was Wa'ila, his wife. He had two wives. One of them was Wa'ila, who was a non-Muslim, and the other one was Kan'an. He was another person who was another son of Nuh alayhi salam, who was a disbeliever in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So these two were from Nuh alayhi salam's family, but unfortunately they were disbelievers. They will be from amongst those who were the mughraqeen, those people who would be drowned in the storm that was coming. Actually, it is only a couple of ayats before where Allah Ta'ala mentioned, من كل زوجين اثنين وأهلك إلا من سبق عليه القول ومن آمن. Bring your family on the boat, except for those who have now the order of kufr has passed upon them already. They are non-believers. وَمَنْ آمَنَ, and those who of course are the believers, you put them on the boat. وَمَا آمَنَ مَعَهُ إِلَّا قَلِيلٌ. Only a few people had believed in Nuh alayhi salam. So last week we did the beginning also, the sign of the adhab starting, وَفَارَتْ النُّورِ, which most of the mufassirin say that when the water started now bubbling from the ground, like a water when a person's making tea and boiling some water on a stove, and the water, when it starts boiling, you see those first few bubbles, and then it starts getting higher and higher. If it's milk or something that rises, it will rise over. In the same way, this is how this was the sign of the starting of the adhab of Nuh alayhi salam. When Nuh alayhi salam was seeing this in the ground, that the water is bubbling, then that means start getting on your ship, gather everybody, because eventually the storm is going to happen. And what happened is it came from the ground also, and the water came from the top as well. So the people were surrounded with water, a storm that the dunya has never seen before. And this week, we come on to now, the storm had came. And the ayat we did last week before this was, يعني قَوْلَ ارْكَبُوا فِيهَا بِسْمِ اللَّهِ مَجْرَيْهَا وَمُرْسَاهَا. Allah Ta'ala told Nuh alayhi salam to mount on the ship, board the ship, and of course board it with the name of Allah Ta'ala. Bismillahi majreha. In the name of Allah Ta'ala is it's moving, majreha. And I told you last week, this is the only ra in the whole Quran that we read, what we call imala. We read it with the empty mouth. It's the only ra muharrik. The ra mutaharrik, meaning a ra with a harakat, with a zabr, zero pesh, or fatah, dhamma, kasra. The only one in the whole Quran we read with the empty mouth, re, like an udu re, almost. So Bismillahi majreha wa mursaha. Mursaha means it's stopping. So in the name of Allah, yani it's moving and it's stopping. Inna Rabbi la ghafurur rahim. Verily Allah Ta'ala is the forgiving and He is the merciful, meaning He's so forgiving and merciful that in this storm, He has not included also Nuh alayhi salam and the believers, but He's forgiven them and showed mercy to them as well. As this is going on and the water is coming down and the storm is coming down in a very torrential and terrible way, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَهِيَ تَجْرِي بِهِمْ فِي مَوْجٍ كَالْجِبَالِ. The ship was moving with them, meaning they were flowing in this ship, فِي مَوْجٍ, in waves, كَالْجِبَالِ, which were the size of mountains. So the water was so much that the waves that were coming were the size of mountains. Nuh alayhi salam, as he was in this water, saw in one corner of a mountain, his son had climbed the mountain and was there. And Nuh alayhi salam then called to his son. وَنَادَى نُوحٌ ابْنَهُ. And Nuh alayhi salam called his son. And this was the son Canaan, who was a disbeliever in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَكَانَ فِي مَعْزِلٍ. Ma'zilin means a corner, meaning he was in the corner of one mountain, grasping onto the mountain, thinking that if I get high enough on the mountain, then I will be saved from this storm. But the water and the waves, of course, were so much that obviously it would throw someone off. The waves were equaling the size of the mountains, and they were splashing against them, so nobody would be able to be saved. So Nuh alayhi salam, in his love of his son, he sees him and says, Ya bunayya, oh my son. And this is a very lovely outcall in Arabic language, bunayya. This is called with love to your son. So Nuh alayhi salam, he screams out to his son, oh my son, irkab ma'ana. Oh my son, ride with us, mount on the ship with us. This is the ship of salvation. What you are doing and using your mind and your aql and trying to use your logic, that is not going to save you today. وَلَا تَكُمْ مَعَ الْكَافِرِينَ. And do not be amongst those who are the disbelievers. So this was the last plea and the last, chance for Nuh alayhi salam to try and save his son, but his son unfortunately did not listen. Allah Ta'ala mentions, قال سآوي إلى جبل يعصمني من الماء قال لا عاصم اليوم من أمر الله إلا من رحم وحال بينهما الموج فكان من المغرقين. Allah Ta'ala says that his son said, سآوي إلى جبل, I will take refuge in a mountain. The water is very high, but it won't reach the mountains. So I'll take refuge in a mountain. When the water subsides and the storm stops, I'll be saved. So I'll take refuge in a mountain. يَعْصِمُنِي مِنَ الْمَاءِ, and that mountain will save me now from the punishment of Allah Ta'ala. So here the son used logic against wahi, which is something that sometimes we fall victim to also. When the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala comes to a nabi, and the promise is that everyone is going to be destroyed, that is not a place now to use logic. So his son got stuck in his own logic and thought that now by staying up in the mountain, I will be saved. So Nuh alayhi salam reminded him about the promise and the wahi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Nuh alayhi salam said, قَالَ لَا عَاصِمَ الْيَوْمِ, O my son, there is no one to be saved on this day, min amrillahi, from the punishment of Allah Ta'ala, illa man rahim, except for that person who Allah Ta'ala has had mercy on. And we already mentioned who those people are. They were the family of Nuh alayhi salam who had believed, and the believers and those animals, one who were picked. Those are the only ones on that day which Allah Ta'ala showed mercy on. As Nuh alayhi salam was conversating with his son, and this dialogue was going on between them, we know that the punishment of Allah Ta'ala, it does not discriminate. Right? If it comes, then it grabs everybody right in between a Nabi who is beloved to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, and right in front of him is his own son. وَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجِ, a large mountain, the ones that we were talking about, the size of mountains, a large wave came right in front of them. فَكَانَ مِنَ الْمُغْرَقِينَ, when that wave just went down, so then his son was not on the mountain anymore. He fell into the wave and then became amongst those who were drowned. So these are the type of difficulties that the Anbiya had to go to for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeing their own son die in this punishment. And it shows also that the shart and the very strong and irreversible, and you cannot take it away, condition for the salvation, not only in this punishment, but on the day of Qiyamah. Salvation will only be through Iman. It doesn't matter what type of ittisal and what type of relationship we have with other people. Here in America and then all over the world, they say what? It's not what you know, it's who you know. Right? It's not what you know, it's who you know. If you know good people, then you can move your way out and get out of difficult situations. The day of Qiyamah is not that. The day of Qiyamah is Iman. If you have Iman, you will be saved. In the Hadith of Bukhari, it's mentioned about Ibrahim alayhi salam. That Ibrahim alayhi salam will ask Allah Ta'ala on the day of Qiyamah that my father Azar, you have put him in the fires of Jahannam. And the people there, they are looking at Azar and they're realizing that this is the father of Ibrahim. And in Jahannam, Charsha, the conversation is going around amongst the people in Jahannam, that Ibrahim alayhi salam's father is in the Jahannam. Wow, look at that. The father of a Nabi is in the Jahannam. And you have told me, O Allah Ta'ala, that you will not disgrace me. So what is this? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will listen to this darkhas of Ibrahim alayhi salam and take his father and send him to Jannah? No. No Iman. Even there, Ibrahim alayhi salam telling him that this is a disgrace, my father's in there, but Allah Ta'ala will say, no. Me taking him out and putting him in Jannah, that is against that condition which will always be there, that the entrance to the Jannah will only be for those people who believed, and Azar disbelieved. You had a chance already. So Allah Ta'ala will turn Azar into, it's a riwayat of Bukhari, it's not a story. This is in the hadith of Bukhari, where Allah Ta'ala will turn him into a pig. And then when he's a pig in Jahannam, the people will not realize that this is the father of Ibrahim alayhi salam. So how much Allah Ta'ala will go through and how much the Anbiya will have to take and have to withstand by not having this Iman, my dear brothers. How important and how, valuable this Iman is. That people who have connection with great people like Anbiya, if they don't have this Iman, they still will be suffering on the day of Qiyamah. Even our own Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. You cannot guide those who you love, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Standing in front of his uncle, Abu Talib, and pleading to him, and just telling him that just say La ilaha illallah once. Don't even pray the salat and the zakat, nothing. Just say La ilaha illallah once, and I will stand. And now you've what? You've fulfilled that condition. And then I will stand in front of Allah Ta'ala in front of you. I will help you on the day of Qiyamah. No. What he said? I'm afraid of the women of Quraysh. They will say that I gave in. I became a coward in my last minutes. He was worried about the women of Quraysh. So his help of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because he was one of the biggest mu'een, one of the greatest helpers of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The ash'ar of Abu Talib have been mentioned in many kitabs, where he has declared in those ash'ar, in those poems, that this Nabi, he's mentioned him as a Nabi. But yet, as they say in Urdu, that the name of Iman, manna kanam, jana kanam, right? It's to obey, it's not just to know. Right? A person can't say that, I think that person is a prophet, or that Muhammad's a prophet. But if he doesn't say La ilaha Muhammad Rasulullah, then his Iman is not accepted. You have to obey also. So this is a great sign of our Iman, and something that, it's a great prize that we have with us, and this ni'mah of Iman that we have, that people who were so close to the Anbiya, raised in their own house, some of them didn't get this gift also. And that's why Allah Ta'ala shows this, to show us the great gift of Iman. So وَحَالَ بَيْنَهُمَا الْمَوْجِ. So it came between them a mountain, فَكَانَ مِنَ الْمُغْرَقِينَ. So then he was from amongst those people who became drowned. The son of Nuh alayhi salam drowned. After this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave the hukum and the order for the storm to stop. And Allah Ta'ala said in a very beautiful way, Allah Ta'ala says, وَقِيلَ يَا أَرْضُ ابْلَعِي مَاءَكِ وَيَا سَمَاءُ أَقْلِعِي وَغِيضَ الْمَاءُ وَقُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ وَاسْتَوَتْ عَلَى الْجُودِيِّ وَقِيلَ بُعْدًا لِلْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. Allah Ta'ala says, and it was said, meaning it could have been said by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala himself, or it could have been said through one of the angels, the malaika, where they ordered the earth and they said, O earth, ibla'i ma'aki, swallow your water. So the water started residing and started receding and going now back into the earth. وَيَا سَمَاءِ أَقْلِعِي. And O sky, withhold your water. Stop pouring the water down. وَغِيضَ الْمَاءِ. And the water then subsided. As quick as it came and filled up with water, as you see sometimes in our tub or in our sink, you just take the drain and open it and the water goes down. This was like the big sink of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The faucet from the top he stopped, and then from the bottom he opened it up and the drain went down and the water from the top stopped, and then the water was all receded back into the earth, and then everything came back to normal. وَقُضِيَ الْأَمْرُ. And the matter had been decided, meaning the great matter and hukum and decision of Allah Ta'ala to destroy everyone from the people of Nuh alayhi salam, all the disbelievers, except those people who believed. Now only the believers resided there. وَاسْتَوَتْ عَلَى الْجُودِيِّ. And what about the ship of Nuh alayhi salam? As the water went down, so when the water went down, they then the ship then was standing on the Mount of Jude. The Mount of Jude is called the Mount of Judi. وَقِيلَ بُعْدًا لِلْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. And then Allah Ta'ala made the announcement that be away with those who are the disbelievers. بُعْدًا. Bu'dan actually means la'natan. Meaning curse. Because a person who is cursed, he's actually ba'idun anir rahmatillah. He's far from the rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So hereby Allah Ta'ala is saying bu'dan, yani it means ba'ud Allahu al-kafirina bu'dan. Allah Ta'ala made them far away from His rahmah by destroying them and drowning all of them. So Allah Ta'ala made this announcement that, O Nuh alayhi salam, the Amr is finished, you are safe now, and all of the disbelievers have now been destroyed. So now Nuh alayhi salam and his people are now safe, they can come off the ship and they can now, reside. But Nuh alayhi salam had something in his heart. He still was connected with his son who passed away. So Nuh alayhi salam made a little bit of a mistake here. And he made darkhas, and he started asking Allah Ta'ala, and we'll explain it, what he said to him. So Allah Ta'ala says, وَنَادَى نُوحٌ رَبَّهُ فَقَالَ رَبِّ إِنَّ بَنِي مِنْ أَهْلِي وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقُّ وَأَنْتَ أَحْكَمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. Nuh alayhi salam, in a very adab and with respect of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he said, Wanada, and Nuh alayhi salam supplicated to Allah ta'ala, and he said, Oh my Lord, Rabbi, inna bani min ahli. My son who just passed away in front of me, he's from my family. And you said before, in the promise that you made to me, that I can put everyone on the ship, احمل فيها من كل زوجين اثنين وأهلك. Your family. You told me that my family can come on the ship. So first of all, he's from my family. وَإِنَّ وَعْدَكَ الْحَقِّ. But I'm not saying anything now that what you did was wrong and that you've gone against your wa'da. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, because your wa'da is haqq and it's truth. وَأَنْتَ أَحْكَمُ الْحَاكِمِينَ. And you are the wisest of all the wise. You have the wisdom. But I just want to know about my son. What happened to him? So why did Nuh alayhi salam say this? Because after this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebukes Nuh alayhi salam. As he did with many prophets, when they make a mistake, Allah ta'ala rebukes them. So it's mentioned that there could be two scenarios, one of two. Either Nuh alayhi salam did not know that his son was a non-believer. The ulama have put two possibilities here. It could be such that Nuh alayhi salam did not know his son was a disbeliever, meaning his son was some type of munafiq, a type of munafiq that outwardly looked like a Muslim, but inwardly was non-Muslim. So Nuh alayhi salam, by thinking he was a Muslim, now Nuh alayhi salam wanted to know that since he was, a Muslim, so I want to know, what is your hikmat? What is your, what is your wisdom in this? What is your wisdom in this? So, like it happens with us, with our elders, let's just say our fathers. Sometimes our fathers will punish us, or they will get mad at us. Right? And if a person, or anything, or let's say a president puts some law down, or whatever it may be, so amongst the people who get that law in front of them and see that law, there are 1-2 people who have this in their mind where they start saying, why? It's because sabab kya hai? What's its hikmat? Right? And usually those are the jahil people. Right? If a father says, listen, you cannot go to the store anymore. Right? So that son who is ignorant, he's ignorant of adab, and he doesn't know, how he should treat his father, he will say what? Why can't I go to the store for? Why, Dad? Can you give me a reason? Right? So what will the father say? You're asking for a reason? I'm your father. What you asked me for? I don't have to give you reasons why I did this. So Nuh alayhi salam, by thinking he was a mu'min and a believer, so one reason why Allah Ta'ala had now, rebuked Nuh alayhi salam in the next ayat was because, oh Nuh alayhi salam, your status is very high. You're a Nabi of Allah Ta'ala. And you should not be involved in that action that usually comes from the pehlu, from the direction of the jahilin. Ignorant people usually ask the elders, or those who are over them, the hikmat and reason why they do things. This is from the jahil. So that's why in the next ayah he says, Allah Ta'ala tells him, إِنِّي عَيْذُكَ أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Nuh alayhi salam, this jahil work and this jahil thing that you are doing here, and you are now asking this thing, and you are now doing something that an ignorant person would do, you should not do this. I'm warning you, don't be like this. Don't ask me about why I do things. And the second reason why, in the next ayat he rebuked him, is that, oh Nuh alayhi salam, in your own house a person is a disbeliever. You're a Nabi of Allah Ta'ala, or aap jante nahi, you don't even know. You don't even know that he's a disbeliever and he's growing up in your own house. So therefore also Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebuked him for that also, that's not good that he was a disbeliever and you didn't even know about it. That's in the scenario where we say that Nuh alayhi salam was asking this, thinking that his son was a believer in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He didn't know he was an unbeliever. He didn't know. Another scenario would be that Nuh alayhi salam knew he was a disbeliever. He knew he was a disbeliever. But because of the love of the son, which it happens to all of us, the love of our children, right? If our children come running to us, with a black eye, or come running to us with something on their head, anything. So then all of a sudden what? We'll close our eyes and it's a natural thing where we say that, who hit my son? And we didn't know. If we reverse it and see our son with the rock, throwing the rock into the guy's car window, then, we'd say that, wow, subhanAllah, I never knew my son could do such a thing like this. Then the whole story would come. But when we see our son, the son runs and he won't say that I threw the rock at the car window. He'll say what? This man just hit me in the face. Dad, take care of him. And we'll go and not even ask, what'd you touching my son for? Right? So this is the type of, the love, because of love. And it's natural. People cannot control it. Because of the love of a son, there's only a few of us that doesn't happen to, but most of us are such that will have a very biased view for our son, and it will blind us from reality. We won't be able to see things straight. We'll take the side of our son. So because of the love of his son, even though he knew his son was a disbeliever, but because of the love of his son, he misunderstood what Allah Ta'ala was saying. When he mentioned ahli, when Allah Ta'ala told him that you can put on the ship min ahl wa ahlaka, he thought that it meant all of your family. All of your family. And then when he said illa man sabaka alayhi al-qawl, it was a very general statement. So he thought that this needs some explanation. Sabaka alayhi al-qawl. Allah Ta'ala didn't tell me who man sabaka alayhi al-qawl. He never said who it was. So this one he also thought to be a very general statement, which Allah Ta'ala did not specify who it was. So he came to the conclusion, Nuh alayhi salam, and the driving force behind that was because of the love he had for his son, and he misunderstood what Allah Ta'ala was trying to say. And Allah Ta'ala actually had clearly said that your family, except those people who the hukum has now come upon, meaning the hukum of kufr, that they are kafir, and I already told you no one else can believe, they were disbelievers already. So Nuh alayhi salam, in asking this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rebuked him and told him that this is not from your family. The love of your son has now blinded you, and you didn't understand what I said. And the love of your son blinding you, and this type of thing is not according to the high status of a Nabi that you have. Allah Ta'ala, even the Quran has told us, Ya alladhina amanu, la tulhikum amwalukum wa la awladukum an dhikrillah. O people who believe, don't let your money and your children dissuade you and take you away from the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what happens. Our children can do this to us also, even though we love them and we like them and everything is good about them. But certainly if we're not careful, then our children, and of course we know our money, it can take us away from the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Nuh alayhi salam in his beautiful way of saying this to Allah Ta'ala, but Allah Ta'ala, of course, He's the one who's, who knows everything. He knows the intentions of all. So Allah Ta'ala then said to him, قَالَ يَا نُوحُ إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ إِنِّي أَعِذُكَ أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. Allah Ta'ala says, O Nuh, إِنَّهُ لَيْسَ مِنْ أَهْلِكَ. He's not from your family. Don't tell me now he's from your family. He's not from your family. He's a disbeliever. I meant your family who believed. إِنَّهُ عَمَلٌ غَيْرُ صَالِحٍ. Why? He is of unrighteous conduct. His conduct was very unrighteous. He was doing bad things. And he was a disbeliever in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَلَا تَسْأَلْنِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. So don't ask me things that you don't know about. Your knowledge is such that I've given you. You're supposed to give da'wah to the people, and you're supposed to follow what I give you the orders. You are not here to question what I do. You cannot question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that why. Right? It's not the way you don't do this with Allah ta'ala. And of course, the Nabi, that's even more far-fetched. The Nabi must ask Allah ta'ala either the hikmat or why something happened. It's not for a Nabi to do that. Why? إِنِّي عَيْذُكَ أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. I am advising you, O Nabi, O Nuh alayhi salam, أَن تَكُونَ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ, that you should not be from amongst the ignorant. Don't be from amongst the ignorant. Don't ask me the hikmat and the wisdom on why I do things. Ignorant people do that. Or, in the second scenario, don't be from amongst the ignorant that now the love of their children and the love of their family blinds them from the reality of deen. Don't be like that. The Jahil people, they do that. So basically, this is what the Mufassirin have mentioned here. But of course, it is the tarz and the habit of the Anbiya, when they feel they've made a mistake in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right away, they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they make their tawbah and they ask Allah ta'ala for forgiveness. So Nuh alayhi salam said, قال رب إني أعوذ بك أن أسألك ما ليس لي به علم وإلا تغفر لي وترحمني أكن من الخاسرين. Nuh alayhi salam said that, O my Lord, إني أعوذ بك, O Allah, I seek refuge in you, that I ask you that which I don't have knowledge about. I'm sorry, I'll never do this again. I will never ask you anything that I don't have knowledge about. I will only make dua to you and supplicate to you, but I will not ask you the reason why you do things and question you. وَإِلَّا تَغْفِرْ لِي, and if you don't forgive me, وَتَرْحَمْنِي, and if you don't have mercy on me, أَكُمْ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ, I'll be from amongst those people who are the losers. And I don't want to do that. So, oh Allah, please forgive me. So obviously Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave Nuh alayhi salam, but it's not mentioned here. But Allah ta'ala obviously gave Nuh alayhi salam, and that is indicated in the next ayat where Allah ta'ala tells him that now you can come down with salam and peace. Allah ta'ala says, قِيلَ يَا نُوحُ قِيلَ excuse me, water here. قِيلَ يَا نُوحُ اهْبِطْ بِسَلَامٍ مِّنَّا وَبَرَكَاتٍ عَلَيْكَ وَعَلَى أُمَمٍ مِّمَّن مَّعَكَ وَأُمَمٌ سَنُمَتِّعُهُمْ ثُمَّ يَمَسُّهُم مِّنَّا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Allah Ta'ala says, قِيلَ يَا نُوحُ, O Nuh alayhi salam, اهْبِطْ بِسَلَامٍ. O Nuh alayhi salam, and it was said either by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala or through wahi of a malaika that, O Nuh alayhi salam, disembark from the ihbit, meaning come down from the ship. Disembark from the ship, bi salamin, with peace. I have forgiven you, and also the adhab of Allah ta'ala has ceased. It's finished. So come down from the ship bi salamin, with peace, minna, from us. Wa barakatin alayk, and also with barakat and blessings upon you. That after this, the progeny will start again from you, and the barakat and blessings will start from you also. وَعَلَىٰ أُمَمٍ مِّمَّن مَّعَكَ, and upon the nation who is with you, meaning your followers and your family and the animals who are there. Now Allah Ta'ala will put barakat in you, And inshallah, the progeny of insan will start again from you and will spread all around the world. وَأُمَمٌ سَنُمَتِّعُهُمْ. And such a nation who we will سَنُمَتِّعُهُمْ ثُمَّ يَمَسُّهُمْ. We will give them enjoyment. We will give them, سَنُمَتِّعُهُمْ means to give fayda dena, to give benefit. So meaning we will give them the dunya and we will make them benefit in this world. سَنُمَتِّعُهُمْ. We will give them benefit and give them enjoyment in this world. ثُمَّ يَمَسُّهُمْ. Then it will touch them from us a punishment which is very painful. A punishment which is painful. So the first of course, is the people of Nuh alayhi salam. And then Allah Ta'ala is telling Nuh alayhi salam that the progeny which will come after, meaning your progeny all the way to the day of Qiyamah, there will be such nations that we will give them we will give them enjoyment in this world. They will have nice houses. They will have good conveyance. They will have big families and money and strength and good looks and all the qualities they will have, like the example which is coming later on in the next story of Ad, Qawmi Ad, where Allah Ta'ala gave them everything of the dunya, nice. They were engineers and they used to build buildings and they had money and crops and animals and family and everything. But ثُمَّ يَمَسُّهُم مِّنَّا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. But because of kufr and because of disbelief they do, so Allah Ta'ala then will touch them, will afflict them with a punishment which is very, very painful. Allah Ta'ala after this mentions, تِلْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ نُوحِيهَا إِلَيْكَ مَا كُنْتَ تَعْلَمُهَا أَنْتَ وَلَا قَوْمُكَ مِنْ قَبْلِ هَذَا فَاصْبِرْ إِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah Ta'ala mentions in tasalli of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in consolement of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and establishing the nabuwwat of Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that he's a prophet of Allah Ta'ala. So Allah Ta'ala mentions, تِلْكَ مِنْ أَنْبَاءِ الْغَيْبِ. These are from that type of news. This is from the information of ghaib, of the unseen. Meaning, oh Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, you never studied the Torah with the Jews. You never studied the Injil with the Christians. You didn't have any history of studying anything. You never sat with any of the religious people. And your people are people who don't know about the stories of the Anbiya. You've never read any of these books also, but yet you are now saying things so precise and so on point, and you're so to say filling the gaps of those other books where the scholars of the Christian religion and the Jewish religion at that time were even looking and listening to Nabi's Islam, that that's what happened. That's why we were a bit confused about what it was in our book. Now it's clear about what happened. So Allah Ta'ala says, solidifying and showing that that Rasulullah is a Nabi of Allah Ta'ala, tilka min amba. Amba is the plural word of naba'un, which means khabar. So this is from the information of the unseen. Nuhiha ilayk. We are sending it to you through wahi. We are revealing this to you. Ma kunta ta'lamuha anta wala qawmuk. You didn't know of it, and also your people didn't know of it. You were also from amongst the Arab, and also the Ahlul Mecca were people who had no knowledge of the prophets of the past. All you knew that this is Ibrahim alayhi salam built this house, we have our idols there, and that's what we do. But other than that, the mushrik in Mecca were not Ahlul Kitab. They didn't have knowledge of these things. Min qabli hada, before this. Before this, you never had the detailed knowledge about Nuh alayhi salam and his son and the punishment. Fasbir, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, bear patience. Why Allah Ta'ala saying, tell Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, bear patience? Because even after this, his people rejected him. Even after this shows, the story shows that Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was a prophet. How could he say these type of things? It shows that he's a prophet of Allah Ta'ala. Allah Ta'ala is revealing him stories that there's no way he can know about it except for someone telling him who was there. And who was there? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So still after this, his people are saying, no, innaka kadhib. You are a liar and you're a magician. And the Jews are saying, no, he's not a prophet. And then the accusations are coming that he must have read some book by the Jews. All the Jewish scholars are asked, we never saw Muhammad, he never came to us. So who did he study by? So all of these accusations which are coming, after it's clearly been shown that you're a prophet, so therefore what else can you do? Fasbir. Make sabr, O Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. إِنَّ الْعَاقِبَةَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Verily, the result will be with those who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Taqwa. Make sure you stay on the deen of Allah ta'ala, sabr and taqwa. Keep staying away from the sin and doing the good deeds, which is what taqwa is. Stay on that. The end point and the finish line, it's for you. You will be victorious at the ending. Innal aqibah al-muttaqin. Aqibah here can mean the day of Qiyamah, that the day of Jannah, when a day will come where those people who are the muttaqin and followed and made sabr, they will go to Jannah. Or innal aqibah can be that later on, the doors of Mecca will open up for you and you will be able to go back in Haram. And those people who are rejecting you, they will be compelled to believe in you. And Fathu Mecca will take place and the result and the victory will be for you. Allah Ta'ala knows best. May Allah Ta'ala give us tawfiq to understand these ayat. Inshallah, next week we'll go on to the qissa of Ad, which is basically about 3 generations after Nuh alayhi salam. And judging from their long lives, it has to be at least 300 years after Nuh alayhi salam. The people of Ad, they came and we'll read about them, inshallah, what they did and how they got punished by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhu da'wan, alhamdulillah.